In today's video, I'll be running through selection tools. And selection tools are very important functions within Photoshop, and you'll see that they're actually placed near the top of your toolbar. So you have three sets of tools. You have your marquee tools that I'll be running through in this video. You have lasso tools, and then you've got two other tools that work similarly, the quick selection tool and your magic wand tool. Again, these are really the bread and butter tools of this program as you're looking to make changes to things, whether they're applying color shifts or applying filters. You need to communicate with Photoshop what it is that you're actually making that change to. And to do that, you use selection tools. So to get started, again, if I long press, you'll see a series of tools associated with the marquee tool. And you'll see these are all shapes. So the first one's a rectangle, you have an ellipse, and then you have a row and a column. Today I'll just be running through the rectangle and the ellipse. To get started, you need to have this tool selected, and you'll see that it's darkened, indicating that it is active. Again, with all of your tools, if you hover, you'll get a little preview and a description of what the tool does. And then if you come over to your document, you'll see that your cursor is different than it was previously. To use this tool, all you need to do is simply click and hold your mouse, drag out what you want this square or rectangle to look like, and then release. Okay? And when you've made that selection, you'll see these dancing ants moving around the border of your selected area. Now again, this area is something that I can act on. I could apply a filter, I could dump color within it, I could copy and paste. And so just to illustrate that, all of you are familiar with copy and paste, I presume. You can come up to Edit. You'll see that you have this option for copy, and the keyboard shortcut is just a Control or Command C. I've done a copy, and then I'll come back up and do a paste. And when I do that, I want you just to take note of your layers panel. Again, I've copy and pasted, so this is a separate object, and that separate object has been placed on its own layer. Okay, so if I go back to my move tool while I'm on this layer, you'll see I can move that pasted piece around. Okay, let's just go ahead and delete that for the time being. So again, while my layer 1 is active, I'm going to hit the little trash can at the bottom of my layer panel. And let's work a little bit more purposefully with this tool. Okay, again, I'm down to one single layer on my layers panel, and I'm on my ducky. I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool again. And this time, let's say we want to select one of these eyes to copy and paste and to make it look like my duck has a third eye. And to do this, again, I'm using my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to grab a relatively small area around my duck's eye. I'm going to release so I see the dancing ants. I'm going to do a Command C for copy and a Command V for paste. Okay. And again, if you are not following along with that Command or Control C and V for copy and paste, you'll see it under Edit. Again, you've got copy and you have paste up here on your menu. Okay. Now, I know that I have made that copy and paste because I can see a new layer on my layers panel, and I want to move it. So I'll grab my move tool. I'll click on that area, grab it, and move it. Okay. Now, as you can see, this worked perfectly. I copy and pasted. I now have this third eye, but this is a point in our work where I want you to start thinking critically about whether this was the best option. Okay, obviously this looks really fake. It does not look realistic, and this is not a good use of this tool. Okay, so what I'm going to do to give you some practice with your layers panel is let's just hide that layer by clicking on the little eyeball. Okay, again, I'm just hiding it. It's still there if I want it later, but I want to more purposely select that eye. So to copy and paste that eye, I can't do it from layer 1 because that eye does not exist on that layer. I need to put myself back on my background layer. Okay. And this time, let's try the ellipse. Okay. You'll see that that looks like a circle. Obviously, our eyeball is more circular. And so I can go ahead and try to make a more purposeful selection. I'll go ahead and release, and you'll see your dancing ants. And at this point, you're going to find that the Marquee tool is a little bit more challenging to get a perfect selection. You don't often know exactly where you need to start and end, particularly with ovals in this program. So when you release it, if you find that it's close, but it's not exactly right, you can use the arrows on your keypad. And I'm just going to use my upward arrow to just nudge this a little bit. Okay. And now again, making sure that you are on the right layer. Go ahead and do the same copy and paste function. So I'm doing a Command C and a Command V. Again, I know I did this correctly because I see a new layer appear. I'm going to grab my Move tool and I'll click to grab that. Okay. And you'll see again, this worked. I have a third eye. It looks a lot better than the square that I had earlier, but I still, in my case here, I still have this little halo of yellow that I don't want. And I could either keep working with my Marquee tool and try to get a much closer selection, or I can try using one of the options on my options bar when that tool is selected. Okay, so one more time, I'm going to click the little eyeball here next to my layer 2 to hide it. I'm going to put myself back on my background layer. And let's go back to our ellipse tool and let's look at our options menu here, okay? So again, remember I said for each of these tools, if you go between them, you'll see that these options change. And you can hover again, you'll see that you've got this option for a new selection, you can add to a selection, you can subtract, and you can intersect selections, okay? But what's really important to me here is this option for feathering. And so to illustrate this, let's just go ahead and set it to 10. And you'll see that the unit of measure with that is pixels. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag out a selection anywhere. Okay, so I'll do it maybe here. I'll do the same copy paste. I'll grab my Move tool and I'll bring this up. And hopefully you see the difference here. When we did our rectangular marquee and we did our ellipse marquee earlier, you got this really hard line at the border that made it really obvious that there was a cut and paste function that had occurred. This time I'm using feathering just to soften that border. And this time when we try to do our eye again, hopefully we'll get a much better selection that will blend into the forehead. Okay. So again, I'm going to go ahead and hide. Actually, we won't hide this one. We definitely won't want this later. So let's go ahead and delete it. Layer 3, I'm just going to hit my trash can. Okay, I'm going to go back to my ellipse tool. Again, you see that we previously used a feather of 10 pixels. Okay, now 10 pixels may be a little bit large for this area around the eye. Okay, unlike this body where the body takes up most of the document, the eye is pretty small. So I'm going to go ahead and shift this to 5 pixels. Okay. And to do this, I need to leave a little bit of room around the eye, so I don't want to select it too closely, because if I do, the black will start to blend in with the yellow. So I need a little bit of a buffer. So I'm going to try to select maybe out about something like that. Okay. I need to move my selection. Okay. I'm going to make sure I'm on the right background layer. I'll do a copy paste. Grab your Move tool. Okay. And I'm just going to move it out to the white area, again, just so you can see the softened border around that copy paste. And then I'll go ahead and place it on the forehead. Okay. And hopefully at this point you can see that this was a much better use of the Marquee tool. Using that feathering option allowed it to blend much more accurately to the forehead. This looks much more realistic. Okay. And again, we will continue to move through the selection tools and the options available to you on your options bar as we proceed through these tools.